Good stewards know there is a happiness hole in our hearts, and only God can fill it. Once upon a time, some angels decided they wanted to give the secret to happiness to us humans. So they wrote down the secret on a piece of parchment, put it into a gold envelope, sealed the envelope, and began carrying it down to earth. But an evil angel ambushed the good angels and stole the envelope. And the evil angel decided, I've got a dilemma. I've got to keep this from humans, so where am I going to put it? And he initially thought about putting it atop the highest mountain. But then he said, no, eventually humans, they're resourceful, they're going to get up to the top of the highest mountain. So I said, well, maybe I'll put it down at the bottom, the very bottom of the oceans. He said, no, it'll take a lot longer, but yeah, eventually humans are going to get down there as well. And then he had an inspiration. He said, oh, I know. I'm going to hide the secret to happiness in the depths of the human heart. They will never find it there. And for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, humans looked for the secret to happiness. They dug into the earth to find gold, to make money so they could buy lots of stuff. They drilled into the ground, hoping to find oil, and they did. And they sold it for even more money. But they were always unhappy. They soon found that no matter how much money they made, no matter how much they bought, that stuff very quickly bored them. It wouldn't last. It gave them a little temporary pleasure, but it certainly didn't give them any long-lasting happiness. So they kept looking for the secret to heaven. In our gospel passage today, Jesus tells us one more time, he says it often in the scriptures, the secret to happiness is serve others. Now, it might seem like, I don't want to do that, that's awfully hard. I'm not going to have fun serving others, and if I'm not going to have fun, how can I have happiness? But at the end of today's gospel passage, Jesus says, look, it's an enigma. It might seem that way, but it's just the reverse. Serving others is lots of fun. It gives happiness that goes on and on and on. It perdures. Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And trust me, I don't think I have ever met a human being who, at least initially, before trying serving others, didn't believe that it was a stupid thing and it would never work. It would never give them happiness. But I have never met a human being who didn't give service a try, who didn't really enjoy it and found true happiness in it. Ask any one of our extraordinary ministers who go over to West Jefferson Hospital or to Ochsner West Bank. Now, when they get ready to go, they may not feel like going, but I can guarantee you, every one of them will say, when they got back, they were on a high. They were happy because service gives happiness. Here's a modern parable. Eliot was a very, very wealthy man, one of the top 25 wealthiest men in the world. he was worth $40 billion. Elliot could and did buy anything and everything he wanted. He had 5 mansions, one on a small island in the South Pacific, and yes, he owned the island. Elliot had 7 tailors on his payroll, and every day he wore a brand new suit, shirt, and tie. He owned 50 of the world's best cars every year, and every year he traded in last year's cars to get this year's 50 best cars. He had 100 antique cars that were worth many, many millions of dollars. He had a 200-foot yacht. He had helicopters. He had jets. But to his friends, his best friends, he confessed he was miserable. And his friends knew he was a Catholic, and they suggested he talk to his parish priest. So he went over to see Father Jim, and he explained to Father Jim what I have just told you. Father, you know how wealthy I am. Why? Why am I so miserable? And Father Jim said, well, Elliot, you're looking for happiness in all the wrong places. You're looking for it in stuff and things. You can't buy happiness. You've got to earn happiness. And you earn happiness by doing what Jesus tells us to do. To serve and not be served. Try it, my friend. I think you'll like it. Well, Elliot did try it, and it changed his life. Every year, he gave away 20% of his gross income for that year. And he didn't just give money, he gave himself, including very kind of menial things like working in a soup kitchen. And he confessed that that was the service that gave him the most pleasure, being able to ladle soup in a bowl for those who had practically nothing. Well, 21 years later, Elliot called Father Jim again and said, Father, I'm close to death. Would you come over and give me last rites? Father Jim said, sure, got over there, and his first question was, Elliot, are you happy? And Elliot said, you bet, Father. I couldn't be happier. And Father Jim said, well, Elliot, that's the first thing I have heard you say in years that is just flat wrong. Yes, you can be happier, and yes, you will be happy because of the type of life that you have led these 21 years. You will go to heaven, and your happiness will be perfect forever. My sisters and brothers, let's embrace, let's hug the enigma. It seems like serving others makes no sense, that it won't be fun, that it won't make us happy, but yes, it does. And Jesus Christ, the Son of God, tells us it will be, that his burden is easy and his yoke is light. My sisters and brothers, we are all called to be good stewards. And good stewards know there's a happiness hole in our hearts that only God can fill.